and 2. They stack the line of scrimmage. There's Dom Hill. There he goes. Dom Hill 40. Dom Hill 30. Downhill Dom Hill. Touchdown. 61 yards.
Smoky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peter Chevrolet.
Medlock, they fake it to him. James Keeper off the left side, breaks the tackle, into the secondary, skips away, and he will score. Touchdown, Duncanville.
Here's David Smoke.
Welcome back. We continue the playoffs, week number 2 of the high school football playoffs in Texas. The Texas High School Football Podcast, brought to you by our great friends at Peters Chevrolet, peterscars.com, peterscars.com online. Randy Peters, an incredible, loyal commitment and supporter and loyal supporter of high school football in the state of Texas. We will hear from 2 different coaches today. One of them, Steve Huff, the head coach at College Station. They won a state championship when they were still wearing diapers as a program back in 2017. They were 11-0. And they have Frisco Lone Star this week. We'll talk with Steve today about College Station. And also Joe Willis in his second year at Legacy High School in Tyler. I broadcast their games from 1991 to 2008. I was able to do a state championship broadcast with them when they beat Westfield in 2004. They had a great run going, but ever since that year, they have not won 10 games in a year. They won 9 in 2006, and since that time, they have really struggled. But he's taken them to the playoffs the last couple of years, winning last week against previously unbeaten Garland, 10-0, 41-40, and now they have Cedar Hill, who beat them and knocked them out of the playoffs last year 45-0. He'll join us as well. Also, we'll look at the best games of the week. And in just the College Station region that has Longview and Highland Park and Frisco Lone Star and others, Class 5A Division I in Region 2, that's just an absolute buzzsaw. We'll get into that and some of those games along with Class 1A to 6A as well. So coming up next, we'll have and hear from Steve Huff, the head coach at College Station. But the games that kind of caught my attention from last week, it's a really nice win for Barbers Hill, beating Fort Bend Marshall with all the talent they have, 42-21. Chapel Hill with a freshman quarterback beat Viter 25-20. Rusk, remember the McCowan brothers? The older brother Josh, the older brother Randy, played quarterback at Texas A&M, led them to a Big 12 championship and stunned Kansas State when they were unbeaten with Michael Bishop in the Big 12 championship game. Remember Josh McCowan started out at SMU, ended up playing in the NFL for many, many years. And then also Luke, who played at Louisiana Tech. And then Luke McCowan, of course, played in the NFL as well. Luke's son is Owen. And Owen is the quarterback at Rusk. They beat Salado 49-42. He had 401 yards passing and 5 touchdowns in that game. There are the next generation McCowan brothers or sons who are coming through the East Texas part of high school football. Also, how about Academy and Chris Lancaster? They've had a great run. Came back to beat Yoakum in overtime 28-22. And how about losing your first playoff game 56-55 and a missed extra point? Tatum did to Pottsboro 56-55 in a shootout. Hallettsville outlast Yo 42-38. Those are some of the games that kind of caught my attention last week in the opening round of the high school football playoffs, and there are some great matchups this week, and we're going to highlight them near the end of the show. But coming up next, College Station head football coach Steve Huff, unbeaten Frisco Lone Star next in the second round of the 5A Division I playoffs on the High School Football Podcast Show, brought to you by Peter Chevrolet.
All roads lead to your largest selection of pre-owned in East Texas. 3306 West Grande in Tyler. It's time for a car buying experience you will enjoy at Peters Auto Sports. Cars from ultimate luxury to affordable economy, trucks from work to play to all-out adventure. Come by 3306 West Grande in Tyler or visit us online at Peters Auto Sports and take advantage of our nationwide delivery. It's all here. Peters Auto Sports in Tyler.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with 0 payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Welcome back to the Texas High School Football Podcast Show, brought to you by Peters Chevrolet in Longview, Randy Peters, and PetersCars.com. One of the great stories in Texas in the last decade has been the success at College Station High School. Head coach Steve Hoffman, what they've done, won the state title in 2017 when they were still basically almost wearing diapers, and they've continued tremendous success, 11-0. So far this year in Lone Star, coming up in that game at Trinity Mother Frances Rose Stadium in Tyler. And Coach Huff joins me on the Texas High School Podcast Show here on 365 Sports. Steve, you guys are a great story. I know when you win quickly, then people expect that all the time, but that's where you want to be, right? Where they will expect the standard to stay the same every year?
I think so. I think the kids want it that way also. That's one of the main things is, you hope you can play well enough to get a target on your back, because otherwise you're looking at targets. But again, I think the kids want it that way, and another coaching staff, hopefully play well enough to get it that way.
You really, I know the Magnolia West game, 41-20, and there was times when you had to push through that, but you have dominated pretty much from start to finish, and you're in a region where there are some dudes now. I mean, everybody seems to be highly ranked, including who you're about to play in Lone Star. Have you been tested this year?
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt we have been. There's been a few games in there that things were definitely early on tight. We've been fortunate. Our defense has played well and got the offense in really good field position at times to where we're pushing games open. But again, I like the football in our district. I think, week in, week out, they're very, very competitive. And but we're definitely, this region is definitely loaded. There's no doubt about that.
You have given up 74 points in 11 games in this day and age of football, the way points are scored. How remarkable, in your opinion, is that?
That's when you go back and sit and look at it, when you talk about it and say it like that, it doesn't seem like very many points. But again, I think our defensive staff's done a really good job this year, putting our kids in position to make plays, and the kids have played hard and taking it to, that's something they really, really like this year is trying to keep the score down and stuff like that. But again, that doesn't come easy. We all know that.
All right. So in your region, the teams that are left, a combined 76 wins and 11 losses, including your 11-0. You're about to play 10-2 in Lone Star. You know about Magnolia West. Denton Ryan, we know them. We know what Lancaster has. They can run a track meet with the best of them as well. Highland Park with what they've done. Wakeland has been nice, really good. And then Longview, even though they've slipped a little bit, their schedule is crazy as well this year. Is this about as good of an 8-team second round as you could possibly imagine?
Absolutely. That's no disrespect to any other region. I know this year, I think when we started out the school year, I want to say preseason, I think 6 of the top 10 teams were in our region, which is remarkable to me. But week in and week out, if you're able to advance, you're playing a gauntlet, and I think everybody understands that.
You initially were in Missouri, right? Isn't that where you played high school football?
Yes. When
did you get to Texas, and how did you get to Texas?
Well, I actually got to Texas through my wife's job originally. I coached at Jim Slaughter and Consolidated. My wife was a ticket manager at Texas A&M University, and so that's how she was in ticketing, so in sports also. So that's how we got here originally, and then left for 6 years. and then built College Station High School. I was fortunate enough that I was able to come back at that time.
So this is a state. I know other states, and there's been an argument about, Georgia's got great players, and obviously Florida's got a bunch of talent, and not New Orleans, but Louisiana as a state, bang for bang, pound for pound, maybe is deep with talent. We know about Ohio and Pennsylvania, California. But the commitment, the talent, the coaches, the facilities, is there anything anywhere close to that here in the state of Texas?
I think it would be very, very tough to match it. I think the one thing I noticed is I've coached in a few states, moving around being a GA and stuff when I was younger, but noticing all the high school football is just the absolute commitment in the state of Texas to athletics alone. And then, football and the football stadiums and the coaching staffs and the way they pay the staffs and stuff. It's, I would say definitely second to none.
What's it like to coach your son at quarterback?
It's fun. When he was younger, I was probably a little bit harder on him. Right now, it's more of a relationship. Now we talk a lot more. He's those conversations have changed. He can tell me things that I don't see, and I can trust what he's telling me is what's actually going on out there. And so it's actually calmed me down the last couple of years, probably as a coach. But it's been great. We spend a lot of time together anyway. But we're going to spend this time together, and I actually coach his position. So that part of it, I wouldn't want to replace ever.
Where is he better this year than he was last year?
I think just the decision-making process. I think as you get older, I think hopefully the game slows down for you a little bit. And as he's gotten a little bit older, not trying to force things, understanding what we're trying to do, distributing the ball. Knowing you don't have to make the play all the time. You have guys around you to make plays, get the ball to the right guy and get the right reads, but not trying to push the ball in there. Doesn't belong. It's okay to punt. That's one thing we talk to kids about all day. It's okay to punt. We don't have to try to make everything like it's a 7-on-7 tournament somewhere. So that part of it, is just trying to make that a smooth transition for all the of our skilled kids is big.
When you look at sports, even though there are team sports, hockey, basketball, baseball, and football, is football the ultimate team sport in your opinion?
In my eyes, it is, and that's not taking anything away from any other sport, any other coach, because I love athletics from top to bottom. I love watching it, but the amount of time and effort these kids put into the blood, sweat, and tears and summer times and just what they go through merely to get to a season. And then to get in the season and have to have, you have to have, one guy with the ball or maybe one guy tackle the ball. There has to be 10 other guys doing their job. And I think, when I look at it like that, when it's a rhythm and it's kind of like the kids are all on the same page and they're in harmony, I just don't think there's anything better than that.
So if you look at hockey, there's the goaltender. If you are talking baseball, it's the pitcher. And in basketball, maybe you could say it's the point guard. There's just the 5 on the court against 5 others. But then the quarterback position. Is there another position in sports that has more on its shoulders or their shoulders in the quarterback position, and why?
I would say probably not. Looking at it, I know a point guard's got a lot of things going on too. But there's so much stuff for a quarterback because you have your protections up front or your blocking schemes up front, plus all the motions that go on, plus snap count, and then reads afterwards. There's pre-snap reads, post-snap reads. So there's a lot of things that are going, a lot of moving parts that go on for a quarterback. So, that's a position I think definitely, like you said, has a lot on their plate.
You run the multiple offense. Obviously, you score a ton of points, and you put up big numbers as well. It seems like, and this is just me, looking at scores coming through this year, that the defenses have, in the last 2 or 3 years, been able to catch up a little bit, even though you've blown a lot of people out. I saw scores in the 70s, not just what you've done, but even last week I saw 70s and 80s. That's that first round, so you might have some mismatches. Have defenses started to catch up to the wide-open game, or is the wide-open game now, are they the ones now on offense adjusting to the defense and making them adjust yet again?
I don't think there's any doubt at all, or at least in my mind, there's been huge adjustments. What people are doing defensively, and we do so much work against each other in the springtime at our I've seen our defense, how they've changed to what we're doing and how they attempt to stop what we're doing and stuff like that. It's made us both better. You know, iron sharpens iron, especially during that time of the year. But I think defenses all around, there's just some different stuff people are doing coverage-wise now. You know, there's some stuff like what Iowa State has done on defense. That's become a little more popular. And so you definitely see the movement being made. It's always a chess match. Everybody's trying to move one step ahead of somebody else. But as soon as somebody catches up, somebody comes up with something else. And I promise you, everything we do has been stolen from somebody.
Now, I mentioned your son, Jed, at quarterback. Marcus Collins has put up some big numbers. Slanker on defense. And I know there's others. I'm not trying to leave anybody out. But how good is Collins, your running back?
Marquise is special. There's no doubt about it. He has a special skill set. You know, his vision and his ability to cut and his ability to cut back. Plus, he's blocking so much better this year out of the backfield and catching the ball out of the backfield. Really, really good hands. So, you know, his skill set is special. And I think as time goes along, he'll be rewarded for that. And then Jackson Slank has been a 3-year starter for us. He's led our district in tackles for 2 years. Again, a special player. His instincts, great speed, closing speed on the ball. And the thing that's strange about Jackson is he could also be a really good offensive player. He has great hands. We played him when he was younger. He played in there as an R back for us. It's kind of a fullback type position, but you know, he does a good job. But one thing about both those kids, they're really good kids and really smart IQ football players.
Friday at Trinity Mother Frances Rose Stadium, I broadcast many games there when I was covering Lee, John Tyler, now Legacy, and Tyler High as well. What's the latest or earliest in the morning where you have awakened with some sort of an idea about a play call?
I don't know. I get up same time every morning, and I have a dog that wakes me up every morning, so it's the same. I don't probably not early in the morning. Unfortunately, it's probably late at night, too late at night when that stuff comes up. But we're pretty comfortable in our skin. We don't reach too far outside of our box.
How much do you enjoy watching young men? Not just the fact that you're coaching your son, because you've coached a long time before that. What's it like to watch a young man who might have been just a guy, a player? Then they don't have to be a star, but watching them, isn't that really what this is all about, of watching young men grow up as people, persons, adults, those you can count on, and football players as well?
You're absolutely correct. There's nothing better than that. I just, through the years, the amount of kids that I've seen go through and graduate, that's the one thing. Each year, you go through and graduate a class, and you see that class go on, and kids that maybe came to football for whatever reason, needed some place to be, something to be a part of. And that's the part that's probably most rewarding, is after the kids have graduated and they come back and they tell you things about your program, or, hey, coach, this helped me. I'm in the Army now. This, the training there is not near as hard as it was in high school. Just stuff where we, as a staff, have helped kids along the way. It's just so rewarding, and absolutely, I love to watch the kids grow up through the program and have some success. But more so than that is go out and be good young men, be good husbands and fathers, and go on and then have the great job that they want.
Steve, one more question. When you won the state title in 2017, I mentioned the program was still very young. I had John King on from Longview, as you know, had the great run, a couple of 3 years ago with his son at quarterback. And Longview had been in this drought from 1937 until they finally won it in 2019. And after it was over, his AD at the time, a former head coach at the time, an AD, Pat Collins, said, "Congratulations, now your job just got harder." Do you feel like that's what happens when you win a state title?
To a certain extent, absolutely. I think everybody, expects. The expectations are high, but again, I think that's where you want it to be. You want your standards to be high. You want your expectations to be high, and the expectations from the people to be high also, because I think that holds your kids to a higher standard, and then they want to do that. They want to repeat that. As hard as it is, I mean, that is so hard to do, but the kids still look at that and see the pictures on the wall and see the trophy, and that's something they're striving for. So, that motivation is always out there. It's a dangling carrot. again, it's very, very hard to do. But again, that process you're going through, it's good stuff.
Steve, you have done a remarkable, phenomenal job with what you've done at College Station High School. Congratulations. Good luck this Friday in your game with the Lone Star and also going through the rest of the season as well. I hope it's a deep run for you. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Steve Huff, head coach at College Station. This is the Texas High School Football Podcast Show. And coming up next, Tyler Legacy head coach Joe Willis. This is 365 Sports.
All roads lead to your largest selection of pre-owned in East Texas. 3306 West Grande in Tyler. It's time for a car buying experience you will enjoy at Peters Auto Sports. Cars from ultimate luxury to affordable economy. Trucks from work to play to all-out adventure. Come by 3306 West Grande in Tyler or visit us online at Peters Auto Sports and take advantage of our nationwide delivery. It's all here. Peters Auto Sports in Tyler.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with zero payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Legacy football coach Joe Willis with me on the weekly high school football podcast, David Smoke. And Joe, I remember when you were hired before the 2020 season, obviously well before that, early in 2020, you and I shared a text back and forth. And you had told me you listened back, or at least listened to part of the state championship team they had in 2004. What did you remember about that?
Well, of course, I remember. I actually watched the broadcast of it. I guess it was on YouTube, and went back and watched it. But I remembered, just how big of a crowd they had in San Antonio that day. Just kind of the energy. I remember the enthusiasm in your voice as you called that game. That's obviously a big win in program history. A big ball game, state championship. As far as the players, I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention at the time. I've had the pleasure of meeting several of those players since then, but it was a neat experience watching the program coming here, knowing that program had been to the top, and having a chance to kind of get them back to that.
And really, since that time, a couple of years later, I think Mike Owens had a 9-3 team, but since that time, it's been kind of barren. I know last year you got 2 rounds deep, you beat Naaman Forest, and then lost to Cedar Hill, who you play this week. It's been a drought. How thirsty do you feel like the community is to get back deeper in the playoffs?
Well, I definitely think there's a lot of interest here, to get back deep in the playoffs. Tyler's a football town. Both schools have enjoyed success over the years, and Rickland's got Tyler High back in the playoffs this year. And I think the people here are hungry for that. A lot of people when we got back the other night, had complimented. We're surprised that that we'd gone in there and beaten an undefeated Garland team, and so I think there's a lot of energy right now coming back to it. Everybody wants to be around a winner. Everybody wants to have that big game. This week we get to go to Dallas and play in a nice stadium, and hopefully we'll get a crowd there. But I definitely think there's enthusiasm and energy here at town, and that people want to see us get back on that winning side.
How much did your district prepare you? And you played good people. I mean, you had a heck of a schedule. You played Allen. I remember that. And the others in the non-district schedule. How much did that help you get ready for what you're now facing in the postseason?
Yeah, well, I tell you, our non-district schedule, of course, we had Allen, we had Longview, Lufkin, Tyler High, and really all of those teams presented challenges. Then you get to our district and you have Rockwall, Heath, who are both outstanding teams. Mesquite, who Coach Harris has got that program back on the upswing. They won a big playoff game last year. So when you flip on the film every week on Sunday and Saturday and you start breaking down things, you every single week there's talented people out there. But the good part about that is every single week we play talented people. So this week, no different. Cedar Hill's got obviously a storied program, a lot of tradition, but they've also got a lot of talent on the field. For our kids, it's just, same thing we've always done. We prepare one day at a time and get ready because we know we're going to be playing somebody with a lot of talent.
How much did last year, the way it ended with Cedar Hill, and I know their history with what Joey McGuire's done and now Carlos Lynn. This year they've had some erratic, moments on offense with the young quarterback. I got to see them in their game with Midway. And also that special moment with a special needs player from Midway scoring a touchdown, so I know them a lot. How much did that fuel the offseason to get back to that opportunity?
Well, I mean, that's definitely what we talked about all spring long. Of course, we went into it with a mindset, first goal was to be competitive and compete for a district championship. That didn't happen this year. We didn't play our best football in those two ball games. There were times where we played really good there. Last year's game was really disappointing. We had 3 of 4 starting secondary members out that week with COVID, so we were really kind of makeshift, and we had some injuries during the course of the game. So it was a disappointing end, but at the same time, it gave our players, the right hope and the right attitude about going back to work and getting back to a place where we can compete. We feel like a completely different team at this point. Of course, Coach Lynn does a great job with that program. I saw that same play that you were talking about. That's a program that's led by, somebody with great vision, and we know that they're going to be well prepared, but our kids are ready for that. We played in a lot of big ball games this year and are just now starting to play our best football.
I'm not so sure that you haven't played. If you look at the win-loss record, I don't know if there's a strength of schedule modem that maybe Pigskin Prep or Carl Padilla or whoever. I'm not so sure from top to bottom from your first game through right now that you didn't have the most difficult schedule in Texas.
Well, if it's not the most difficult, it's one of the more difficult, I'll tell you that. Now, I know there's some other teams out there in our district. Rockwall and Rockwall Heath both played a good non-district schedule. Rockwall, they played Lake Travis and beat them early in the year. And, of course, Heath played South Lake Carroll to a one-point game. I think they missed a field goal there late in the game that could have gotten them the win. So, but I'll put our schedule up there against anybody. Every week we step on the field, we've got some really good teams that we're playing against.
I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but since I did their games for such a long time, the 2004 state championship team opened up their playoffs with a win against Garland.
Well, that would definitely be a good sign then, in that case.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, our team, throughout the year, we battled through some nagging injuries. Obviously, we're not real public with, what's hurting and who's hurting and things like that. But we haven't been full strength this entire year. We worked really hard to try to limit, the number of carries and touches of some of those players that we knew were going to be valuable during the playoffs. But the other night against Garland is the first time really, I saw our team compete for 4 quarters. We put together some good quarters and halves, but I've never seen them compete for 4 quarters the way they did the other night. So I feel really good about where we're going to be Saturday. I think our minds are right now. I think those players that know that, they're going to have to carry the load as we go, I think they're ready to do that.
And you've been on teams with Ira Ann and their straight, what you had there and accomplished there, the state championship opportunities and winning one at Cedar Park and Colleyville Heritage, of course, was a heck of a program. You have these players that have, blue chippers. Obviously, Miller broke Tyrone Ross's all-time rushing record. I remember the moment when Tyrone broke the record of Derek Farmer back in the day, and then Bryson Donnell going to Tech, and all the others. You got more than that. You've got some alpha dogs, don't you?
We do. We've got some players that they're ready to compete at a high level for us, and obviously they're going to go on and compete at the next level. And all year long, we worked really hard to find those players who maybe are not, a college football player, that this might be their last chance, but are willing to get in there and give their all. And again, that's part of the, building the chemistry and building the culture around a program where you've got good players, but you got to have those players that are, good in depth, good in situations where they're coming in and subbing in for a player that's, maybe an outstanding player. You got to have great scout teams during the week. Those are things that, at Cedar Park and Colleyville Heritage, we got an understanding of it's the program that wins games. It's not the talent. And again, I think now we're getting to a place where we're beginning to understand exactly, what we've got talent-wise, but we also have some players that'll come in for us and be able to play at a high level, even when they're not as talented as those other players.
What did you see other than names I brought up among, there's Donovan Jordan, Sears, Ford and Umber and Ronaldo, the kid that just came to Legacy. What did you see about that job when you were at Heritage that interested you?
I'll be honest with you. I knew there was some talent out here, but for me, it wasn't necessarily the individual players that were here. It was an opportunity to come into a place that I knew had experienced, championship culture before, where I knew there was a commitment, from the administration to make the facilities right, get them to a place where they had everything they needed to be competitive. It was a situation for our family where I got my wife closer to her parents. So there were a lot of things that went into it. So from a standpoint of football, I know East Texas, and I know, that on Friday nights, Rose Stadium's going to have a lot of people there, and I know it's important here. So for me, that was really the biggest draw is go to a place where football was important, where people are going to show up and get behind a team. And, that's beginning to happen now. That first year was rough. First year with COVID knocking out, our spring, we didn't have a spring, and really just kind of got to know the players when the season started. The goals were different then. It was get on the bus and make sure we had a game and make sure we got to play, and our seniors responded in a great way. This year we want to compete and make a run. And so I think we're in a good position now. We're healthy, and really have an understanding of what we've got to do to win and survive and advance every week.
Well, I remember how Mike Owens did it, and I know you know the history of what he had to start with back in the mid to late 90s, getting his brains beat in by John Tyler and Alan Wilson and Longview and Marshall and Lufkin, and then, man, they turned that corner and they had some absolute wars in that area. So it looks like you're doing that again. Joe, I know you've got bigger goals. Robert E. Lee High School, now Legacy High School. Joe Willis, the head coach, thanks for your time today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Joe Willis on the Texas High School Football Podcast.
All roads lead to your largest selection of pre-owned in East Texas. 3306 West Grande in Tyler. It's time for a car buying experience you will enjoy at Peters Auto Sports. Cars from ultimate luxury to affordable economy, trucks from work to play to all-out adventure. Come by 3306 West Grande in Tyler or visit us online at Peters Auto Sports and take advantage of our nationwide delivery. It's all here. Peters Auto Sports in Tyler.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with zero payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Welcome back for our final segment. Again, this is week number 2 of the high school football playoffs. By district last week, area round this week, and of course every week, just simple math, half of the teams that are left are gone after this week as they go towards the state championship weekend eventually at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. So here are the elite games for this week, the second week of the high school playoffs. And remember, we do this every week. The number that really kind of matters is the one all to the far right. It's the combined rank of two teams playing. For example, number 1, College Station, in a game we've highlighted with Steve Huff against third-ranked Lone Star out of Frisco. 1 and 3 equals 4. College Station a slight favorite. That's the highest rated game according to our great friend Jerry Forrest and pigskinprep.com. And then there's a bunch in that between 10, 11 points and about 20. Ennis in a pick'em game against against Timberview in Mansfield. They've lost 4 games. They have played a really hard schedule. Kennedale and Argyle, 2 10-1s. Melissa, we featured them earlier this year. Melissa, a favorite against Heritage. Heritage, a part of that district that includes Stephenville and La Vega. Also, go down a couple of notches. Aledo and Frisco Liberty. There's a lot of good teams in Frisco. 24-point favorite. Aledo supposed to roll, but that's a highly ranked game. South Oak, Clifton, Frisco, 2 10-1s. El Campo. Lindale 7-4. Remember last year they had Jordan Jenkins, the running back who's now at Baylor, lead them to the state championship game. They eventually lost to Argyle. They're back. They're in the second round at 7-4. El Campo's a touchdown favorite. This one here, Magnolia West and Denton Ryan. Magnolia West only losses to College Station, so you know how good they are. Denton Ryan, of course, at 10-1 as well. Their loss was to Geyer. Cuero and Rockport Fulton, 2 10-1s. Grandview, 9-2. They won those back-to-back state titles. They've always had those great matchups with Malakoff. Right now, they've got to worry about the Bears and Johnny Levere, their head coach, former quarterback at Gladewater, by the way. They're 8-2. Lovejoy and Burleson. Barbers Hill. I mentioned they had the great win against Fort Bend Marshall. They have A&M Consolidated and head coach Lee Fedora, who's been a part of this show. Stephenville's a heavy favorite. Paris, though, on occasion, they got some dogs now. Steve Hohenberger, head coach of the Wildcats, should be interesting there. Go down a couple of now. Of course, Windthorst last year won it all. They have Archer City. Highland Park, a touchdown, maybe more, 9-point pick against Wakeland over yet another Frisco team. Refugio, heavy favorite against Flatonia. Midland Legacy, formerly Midland Lee, that's Cedric Benson and all of the success he had against South Lake Carroll. South Lake Carroll's a favorite, but that could be the intriguing game. Dangerfield, Elysian Fields in East Texas is one of those games. And then 2 11-0s in 6-man football, May and Jonesboro. A couple of games that are not on that list to mention. Rockwall and DeSoto, 2 9-2s. Also, the legacy game against Cedar Hill, we spoke with Joe Willis about that. Cedar Hill beat Legacy 45-0 last year. I think this game could be tight, and I'm not so sure Legacy's offense might give Cedar Hill some problems. Cedar Hill's strength is their defense. Their offense has been sporadic at times with a young quarterback. And the rematch, Temple and Rockwall Heath. Remember last year, Rockwall Heath got on that great run with Mike Spradlin, beat Temple, where he coached then. He left. Well, Scott Stewart's taken over, done a great job at Temple. They'll meet again like they did last year, and Heath got the win. That could be a very high-scoring game. All right, thanks to Joe Willis, head coach at Tyler Legacy. Thanks as well to Steve Huff, the head coach at Unbeaten College Station. Thanks to Randy Peters and Peters Chevrolet. Go to peterscars.com for more information. Their dealership in Longview. And Armstrong Sims runs the mothership behind the scenes. I'm David Smoke. We'll be back again next week. The Texas High School Football Podcast on 365 Sports. Good night.